Hello, Berlin. I'm here to tell you how I accidentally became a sextech founder and why I want all of you to start and fund sextech. So, I date younger men. They tend to be men in their 20s. And through dating younger men, about 9 or 10 years ago, I began realizing that I was encountering an issue which would never have crossed my mind if I had not encountered it so intimately and personally. I realized I was encountering what happens when today's total freedom of access to hardcore porn online meets our society's equally total reluctance to talk openly and honestly about sex. The convergence of both of those factors results in porn becoming, by default, the sex education of today in not a good way. And so I found myself encountering a number of sexual behavioral memes. I went, whoa, I know where that behavior is coming from, and I decided to do something about it. So 8 years ago, I put up on no money a tiny, clunky little website at MakeLoveNotPorn.com that posts the myths of hardcore porn and balances them with reality. So the construct is porn world versus real world. I had the opportunity to launch Make Love Not Porn at TED, and as a result, I am the only TED speaker to have uttered the words, "come on my face," on the TED stage 6 times. The talk went viral as a result, and it drove an extraordinary response to my tiny, clunky website that I had never anticipated. So much so that I felt I now had a personal responsibility to take this initiative forwards in a way that would make it much more far-reaching, helpful, and effective. So I saw an opportunity to do something that I believe in very strongly, which is that the future of business is doing good and making money simultaneously. I saw the opportunity for a big business solution to a huge, untapped global social need. So what I have to emphasize is that Make Love Not Porn is not anti-porn because the issue isn't porn. The issue is that we don't talk about sex in the real world. If we did, amongst many other benefits, people would then bring a real-world mindset to the viewing of what is simply artificial entertainment. Our tagline at Make Love Not Porn is pro-sex, pro-porn, pro-knowing the difference. And our mission is one thing only, to help make it easier to talk about sex. Talk about sex openly and honestly in the public domain, and talk about sex openly and honestly privately in your intimate relationships. And so I decided to take every dynamic that exists out there in social media currently and apply them to the one area no other social platform is ever going to go in order to socialize sex and to make real-world sex and talking about it socially acceptable and therefore ultimately just as socially shareable as anything else we share on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram. So 3.5 years ago, my team and I launched the first stage of this vision, which is MakeLoveNotPorn.tv, which is an entirely user-generated, crowdsourced video sharing platform that celebrates real-world sex. Anybody from anywhere in the world can submit to us videos of themselves having real-world sex. And we are very clear what we mean by this. We're not porn. We're not amateur. We're building a whole new category online that has never previously existed, social sex. So our competition isn't porn, it's Facebook and YouTube, or it would be if Facebook and YouTube allowed sexual self-expression and self-identification, which they don't. So real-world sex videos on Make Love Not Porn are not about performing for the camera. They're simply about doing what you do on every other social platform, which is capturing what goes on in the real world as it happens in all its funny, messy, glorious, silly, beautiful, wonderful humanness. We curate to make sure of that, watch every video to make sure it's real. And we have a revenue-sharing business model. I believe the business model of the future is shared values plus shared action equals shared profit, financial profit and social profit. I designed Make Love Not Porn around that business model. So you pay to rent and stream real-world sex videos, and then 50% of that income goes to our contributors, or as we like to call them, our Make Love Not Porn stars. Because we would like our Make Love Not Porn stars one day to be as famous and celebrated as YouTube stars, for the same reasons: authenticity, realness, individuality, and we would like them to make just as much money. We want to hit the kind of critical mass where one day your real-world sex video on Make Love Not Porn could hit 1 million rentals at $5 per rental, and we give you half of that income. We are the answer to the global economy, by the way. Now, all we're doing, really, is think about it like this. Think about those celebrations of relationships that crop up on your Facebook timeline from your friends. Engagement announcements, wedding photos, lovey-dovey coupley things. We're providing a platform to celebrate that one area of human relationships nobody else will let you, but the motivations and the social dynamics are exactly the same. So on Facebook from your friends, it's, we're madly in love. And so here we are on a romantic weekend in Paris, kissing in front of the Eiffel Tower. And on Make Love Not Porn, it's, we're madly in love. And here's the great sex we had in our hotel room in Paris on that weekend. Exactly the same deal. All we're doing is engaging and connecting people around the social sharing of sex, to open up communication around sex, to get to better sex, to get to better relationships, to get to better lives. Now, when I embarked on this venture, I had no idea my team and I would fight a battle every single day to build it. Because every piece of infrastructure any other tech startup can take for granted, we can't, because the small print always says no adult content. And this is all pervasive across funding, banking, payments, every tech service, hosting, encoding, encrypting. And so I realized very early on that I was going to have to pave my own way, because every obstacle we face boils down to one dynamic only, which is the social dynamic that I call fear of what other people will think. It is never what the person I'm talking to thinks. When you understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, nobody can argue with it. It is always their fear of what they think other people will think, which operates around sex more than any other area. And by the way, fear of what other people will think is the single most paralyzing dynamic in business and in life. You will never own the future if you care what other people think. So I realized I was going to have to break down this barrier. So I am doing what I tell other entrepreneurs to do, which is when you have a truly world-changing startup, you have to change the world to fit it, not the other way around. And so I realized that I was going to have to pioneer and champion my own sector in order to open up the minds of the tech and business world to my own startup. So I am championing sextech, and I've defined sextech as any form of technology or tech venture that enhances, innovates, and disrupts in any area of human sexuality and sexual experience. And I'm here to tell you, Toa Berlin, that if you want to breed the next generation of unicorns, start and fund sextech. 5 reasons why. Here's number 1. Sextech delivers the biggest and most profound social benefit of any area of tech. Because we're so screwed up about sex, we default sex to a thing we do, to an act. It's not. It's personality. Who we are sexually is a fundamental driver of how we feel about ourselves, other people, our relationships, our lives, our happiness. And understanding this is particularly important because the reason we're doing what we're doing at Make Love Not Porn is the average age today at which a child is first exposed to hardcore porn online is 8 years old. And a global study done 3 years ago by Bitdefender indicates that age had actually dropped to 6. This is not because 8-year-olds and 6-year-olds go looking for porn. They don't. It's a function of what, in the digital world we live in today, is utterly inevitable and cannot be prevented. They stumble across it. And so, in an era where it's now critically important that we talk to children about sex in the home as early as possible, and it's imperative that at the same time we talk to them about porn. And by the way, somewhere in this audience is Nina, who is 9 months old. I'm really glad her father is starting her off in the right way. But because of that, we cannot go on operating around sex and porn the way we always have. The answer to everything that worries people about this is not to clamp down, shut down, censor, block, repress. The answer is to open up. Open up the dialogue in the way we're working to at Make Love Not Porn. Open up to welcoming, supporting, and funding the entrepreneurs who want to disrupt all of this for the better, and open up to allowing us to do business in the same way everybody else does. And when you do that, you completely transform the entire business landscape associated with sex. I like to repurpose Wayne LaPierre of the NRA's infamous gun control quote. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a business is a good guy with a better business. So, reason number one, social benefit. That's the last time today I'm going to talk about social benefit. The next 4 reasons are all to do with the absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money you can make through sex tech. This is the single biggest money-making market opportunity of them all. Peter Thiel writes in his book, 0 to 1, what valuable company is nobody else building? Secrets about people are relatively underappreciated. What are people not allowed to talk about? What is forbidden or taboo? The best problems to work on are often the ones nobody else even tries to solve. Peter Thiel is not taking his own advice because he's not investing in sex tech. That's a very big mistake, Peter, because, oh my God, the money there is to be made. And the money's to be made in 2 areas, the second one of which right now nobody even thinks about because no one even thinks it's possible. So the first area is obviously the money to be made out of sex. We all have it. We all enjoy it. Recession-proof. Market never goes away. But the second area is, oh my God, the money there is to be made out of socially acceptable sex. When you do what we're doing at Make Love Not Porn, socialize sex, make it socially acceptable and shareable, you potentially double, triple, quadruple your returns when you normalize people feeling really okay about publicly buying into your goods and services, then publicly doing what they do with everything else. Advocate, share, recommend, and publicly badging themselves as brand ambassadors. That's the trillion-dollar financial future we're going after. And the proof of how achievable that is out there right now. Because at this moment in time, the single highest income-grossing author in the world is E.L. James. The author of 50 Shades of Grey has out-earned Dan Brown, Jim Patterson, Michael Crichton. 50 Shades of movie broke box office opening weekend records. That is the financial power of socially acceptable, socially shareable sex. Something that John Evans of TechCrunch really understood when he covered us last year and said, socially acceptable sex is a huge market. More interestingly, it's a huge new market. And even more interestingly are the broader business implications of normalizing sex. People have sex in cars. A lot of people have a lot of sex in cars. And yet the automotive industry is spectacularly failing to factor this into product design and marketing. Even more fundamentally, people have sex in bed, and yet the mattress industry focuses its entire R&D on sleep. Casper, I'm looking at you. I know you're here. You're missing a huge business opportunity. People have sex on kitchen counters. The kitchen industry is failing to capitalize on that. There are many, many brands, products, and services who would benefit from normalizing this universal area of consumer experience. Reason number 3, every infrastructure challenge that sex tech founders face is a huge disruptive business opportunity in itself. Every point I'm making in this talk today is an entire presentation itself. And so I will just say very briefly that the first bank that welcomes honest, legal, decent, transparent, ethical sex tech ventures, the first payment processor that processes payments for honest, legal, decent, ethical sex tech ventures, the first hosting company, tech service company that welcomes sex tech ventures, stands to clean up colossally in a way that no tech infrastructure service has even begun to see. Reason number 4, everything is redeployable. Rule 34 of the internet: if it exists, there is porn of it. Gallup's rule: if tech exists, it's redeployable as sex tech. Every single form of technology, every dynamic that is driving huge business success and money in the tech arena can absolutely be redeployed in the service of sex. At MakeLoveNotPorn alone, we are leveraging a whole bunch of those market dynamics. User-generated, crowdsourced. Video sharing. Video is the future. Video is communication today. Social sharing. Ephemeral. We are ephemeral in a way that Snapchat and WhatsApp no longer are. We operate a rent and stream model versus a download and own because our commitment to our Make Love Not Porn stars is the moment anything changes, your relationship, your life, your circumstances, just your mind, all you have to do is tell us, we take your videos down, they're gone forever, they're nowhere else on the internet. Nobody else does that. And data, boy oh boy, we have the potential to be the Kinsey of today. Real world, real life, real-time human sexual behavior in an area that is notoriously research and data-free, because for all the reasons we battle, nobody is funding the ComScore of sex, another infrastructure opportunity. And in the area of research and data where there is the widest gap between what people say and what people actually do. And we are all about what people actually do. So for the future, move from the cliche of the Uber for blank to the blank for sex, because that's where the money is. And reason number 5, one word: women. The most innovative startups in sex tech today are coming from female founders, because we are finally owning our own sexuality, and we are finding truly disruptive ways in which to innovate within it. And this is the point at which I could give you a huge list, which unfortunately I can't, so I'm going to just throw out a few. Alexandra Fine and Janet Lieberman of Dame Products, who came up with the Ava that women wear during sex to give them an orgasm. Interestingly, the female version of Lovely, which is for the male to wear in this context. Won Seng, Royal College of Art graduate in London, has created a completely new approach to sex toys, a range of wearables that, instead of focusing on vibration and orgasm, replicate the sensation of a lover slightly lightly blowing on your skin. Gentle grazes, light touches, a completely different approach to erotic arousal. My friend Tina Gong, whose app Happy Playtime destigmatizes female masturbation by gamifying it, helping women learn how to get themselves off with a secondary audience, obviously in straight men. And all of this is happening for the same reason. Female founders are the ones to watch in every area of tech. Women challenge the status quo because we are never it. And so if you want real innovation and disruption, look at female founders, because there is a huge amount of money to be made out of taking women seriously, especially in this area. There is a huge amount of money to be made in the area of women's needs, wants, and desires that have historically been deemed too embarrassing, sensitive, taboo, or shameful to be addressed through business ventures. The market is unbelievably huge, and obviously, when you reach a huge primary audience of women, you also reach a huge secondary audience of extremely happy men. Female founders are the ones to bet on because we are forged in fire. It's a very good thing, given the obstacles I've detailed, that the single dynamic that most motivates me, that keeps me going through startup stress is the dynamic that I call, I'm going to fucking well show you. You tell me it can't be done, I'm going to fucking well show you. You put an obstacle in the path, I'm going to fucking well show you. Every obstacle a tech founder encounters, have a sex tech startup triple them. If you want to back founders, we're the ones to back. Now, I want to, as the last part of this presentation, I want to give you two more holistic approaches to sex tech. The three huge disruption opportunities in tech today are sex, cannabis, and Bitcoin. And ironically, investors are flooding into the other two more than they are the first, which means that VCs and startups in cannabis and Bitcoin can afford to fund lobbyists, regulation change, public education initiatives, foundations, all things we need in sex tech. When we have the funding to do that, when we have the funding to lobby to change the definition legally of adult content, we completely change the landscape of how and why and where we do business. I study the cannabis market very closely because there are many analogies between sex tech and what is happening in cannabis. And so here's the first holistic opportunity I want to highlight to you. The privateer holdings of sex tech. Privateer Holdings was started 10 years ago by three men from private equity who saw the huge opportunity in the rapidly legalizing cannabis industry. They started Privateer to build brands and legitimize them in cannabis. They struggled 10 years ago to raise $7.2 million. Last year, they raised $75 million, led by Peter Thiel and Founders Fund, and this year, they're raising $100 million. There is a huge opportunity for the privateer holdings of sex tech. What I want to build, and I'm looking for backers, I want to spearhead the sex tech incubator, accelerator, fund, and holding company of the future. With MakeLoveNotPorn as the hub of this, we deliver two things that are of benefit to every sex tech venture. We normalize and socialize sex, and we deliver social sex content. That is product demonstration, product communication, product advertising in a way that nobody else offers. And then around that hub, a portfolio of companies characterized by two filters. True outliers, the real innovators and disruptors in sex tech that therefore come from female founders and understand and are empathetic with the enormous market there is for women in sex tech. You want deal flow, I'll show you deal flow. And by the way, for investors who are brave enough and forward-thinking enough to want to do this, I can also show you the deal flow that is the future of porn. I've been talking about sex tech, and that's a very different thing. But I have a lot of friends in the porn industry. You may or may not know this, but MakeLoveNotPorn is the only place on the internet where porn stars share the sex they have offset in the real world. Because porn stars have real-world sex too. My straight, gay, lesbian, trans porn star friends share with us the sex they have in their real-world relationships. And I can tell you that my friend Stoya, whom I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with, she has her own company, Trenchcoat, but you haven't even begun to see the kind of porn that she wants to create that is the future of porn if she only had the funding and the backers to do it. Nothing like anything you see in the porn industry today. My friend Danny Wilde, ex-male porn star, went to film school, is doing amazingly creative things in film. Again, with funding, he's the future of porn. My friend Ella Darling, pioneering in VR porn, again with the right backing, she's the future of porn. But in that world, there is no one to mentor, coach, advise, and finance these guys. And so, sex tech deal flow, porn deal flow, for the investors brave enough to do that, oh my God, it's a $1 trillion marketplace. Here's the second holistic opportunity. Berlin. You can be the global sex tech hub of the future because nobody else is. Colossal opportunity. Be the city that welcomes sex tech entrepreneurs. Be the city and the market that delivers sex tech investors, that builds and supports the infrastructure that we can all use to grow and scale our businesses. Be the sex tech hub of the world, and you will be, ultimately, the tech hub of the world. I want you to seriously consider that. Because MakeLoveNotPorn is a global platform. And one of the things we therefore want to do is that we want to help countries reclaim their national sexual identity. Because every country has one. National tradition, national heritage, national values, national stereotypes exist around sex as much as they do around any other form of behavior like cooking or eating. It's just we never talk about it. But anyone who's ever shagged their way around the world can testify. People make love differently based on the culture, society, country they come from, or rather they used to. Because porn is now homogenizing sex globally. And so we want to open up this dialogue at a national level. Because we're at a time where every country needs to examine its values, and every country needs to examine its national sexual values. We want to put the call out, make German love, not porn. Make Chinese love, not porn. Make Brazilian love, not porn. We would like to instill a sense of national pride in how each country has real-world sex. And we wouldn't mind instilling a sense of national competitiveness. We'd love the Olympics of real-world sex and social sex playing out on Make Love Not Porn. So the thought I want to leave you with, guys, is every other big bet ever made in the history of tech pales against sex tech. And the irony is, get in on the ground floor, and the bets you need to make are very small. At Make Love Not Porn, 3.5 years old, we're looking to raise a round of $2 million. A number of my sex tech entrepreneur friends are looking for $200,000, $300,000 to help them scale their businesses. The sex tech fund and holding company of the future, I can start that with $10 million. So, given everything that I've said to you, here's what I want you to ask yourselves. Would you bet against everything you've just heard? Would you bet against sex tech? And would you bet against me? Thank you.